Greetings, fellow humans. I am Hugh.
And I am Man.
And together we are definitely not
Two
kobolds in a trench coat. We enjoy human activities, such as paying taxes,
Having existential crises,
and RPG horror stories. Let's see what we've got today.
First off, we have a player who starts off shy, but makes everyone wish they'd stayed that way. Then, we have a player and a DM who roll for initiative in real life. The Creep, the Simp, and the Damn Beer, by Reddit user Drabloon. First of all, despite the joke title, this is a real story and is fairly triggering, so trigger warning for SA. Well, I was invited over to some friends for a quick campaign, not more than 10 or 15 sessions long, on a medieval apocalypse set just before the apocalypse. We were the forces sent to an island to stop a portal to some hellish dimension from leaking demons and creatures on our world.
God, I hate it when your demons leak out everywhere. It's kind of embarrassing.
We were 5. Me, a demi-human wolf assassin, Innocent 1, a healer fairy, Innocent 2, a human tank warrior, the Creep, human warrior, the Simp, a human wizard. I knew the DM in both Innocents 1 and 2, and the Simp, but the Creep was invited by the Simp. We started off really well, everyone joking and laughing except for the Creep. He was very nervous since the start and was kind of strange. He tried to talk to me but started bumbling his words and stuttering. After the first session, the Simp sends me a DM. Hey, the Creep is kind of uncomfortable and shy. He's never had a girl in a campaign before, so don't give him any traumas, haha. I laughed and said, alright, leave it up to me. Then DM'd the Creep saying, hey, I noticed you were kinda shy at the first session. Chill, we're all here to have fun. I added, you can be yourself, don't worry. I won't bite you, haha. Oh boy, I would regret that second DM. On the second session, the Creep started acting much more openly towards the rest of the party. He liked to make jokes and specifically say every single one of them to me specifically. I just laughed it off until we got back from our first journey. We had found a demon in the form of a giant blind dog. We had fun, but we were completely unprepared. The Creep, being a gentleman, asked if he could take every single blow for me, and since his turn was before mine, and he always kept following me and attacking the damn thing, I never managed to use my best skills, which rely on surprise attacks and opportunity attacks. We got obliterated, but this encounter was more of a taste, and for us to understand how dangerous these things truly were.
I can appreciate being shy and awkward in a new scenario. I'm very much that kind of person. But wow, the red flags are already there a mile high. This overly quote-unquote chivalrous behavior is already ringing massive alarm bells in my head.
Yeah, and it's especially not nice because then now OP can't do their character the way that they're supposed to do their character because you got Creep over here shadowing them the whole time. So yeah, it's, I'll take every blow for you. Yay! No thank you. I'm fine.
I think OP would very much rather get to play the game and be treated the same as everyone else. You see, the real way to treat women well is to treat them the same as everyone else, like they're people.
It's two sides of the same coin when it comes to misogyny. Either they assume that you can't do anything so they treat you like you're less than, or they assume you can't do anything and so they take all the blows for you. Either way, it's still misogyny. We all woke up in the field hospital. Everyone was alive and the party decided to head to the tavern there. My PC ordered a beer and stayed with the boys. Well, this is where the Creep and the Simp got their names. The Creep began to be uncomfortable, to say the least. He started hitting on my PC. I promptly joked and said I didn't want anything with him, and it seemed to make both the Creep and the Simp quite angry. The Simp was a wizard, but he was also an alchemist of some sort. He made a potion earlier that would amplify the effect of the next potion someone drank. Quite useful, huh? Well, the Simp and the Creep got out to get more beer for all of our PCs, but the Simp added the potion to my beer. I found it to be a bit annoying that they did that, but my PC didn't see anything, so oh well, drinking I did. That promptly made my PC completely drunk, with the DM adding, "You can barely walk." The Creep then started being all weird, but Innocent One said, hey, take her to her room and leave her alone. Well, the creep took my PC to his room, locked the door, and undressed my PC, and you can guess what he did to her, with the simp eager to leave the other boys and join the creep.
I'm holding back a borderline rage here. How did it get that far? The DM should have absolutely cut this off when they put that potion into the drink. These two spiked her drink. At that point, it should have very much become unacceptable and cut off by the DM right away. I get it, the DM's not the one doing this, but the DM absolutely should cut off this kind of behaviour. They spiked the drink, and then it got worse, and the DM didn't stop it. They seemed to allow the roleplay to continue.
It's like, I get it, some people, I guess, are a little innocently minded, but how else are you going to justify spiking somebody's drink, is my question. It's not okay, especially if it amplifies whatever you drink or imbibe next, which basically means that the person got super duper drunk. How's that going to help anybody, and why is that fun for anybody? It's not, and it's clearly meant to do bad things.
The potion existing isn't necessarily a bad thing. If they had brought the beers back and said to everyone, hey, we could put this potion in our drinks and get super drunk off of one beer and save a lot of money, fine. But they specifically put it in the drink of the only woman playing at the table. That's not okay and very clearly shows an intent.
It's just not okay to do that. I mean, even back before I was going to bars or getting out nightlife, or back when I was super sheltered, because I was super sheltered at one point, even I knew better than to let somebody touch your drink. The fact that Creep was the one then that took her to his room as well, where was the DM in all of this? That's your job. That's your literal job as the DM. And I know that Creep obviously is the big problem here. Creep and Simp are the big problems here. But the reason that things can get so out of hand like this is because of DMs that aren't gutsy enough to stand up and say, no, this is not happening, not at my table, not ever. I immediately said to the Creep, dude, what the F is your problem? He answered, well, it's not my fault you made a femoid horny PC. I was so disgusted I quit the call and said to the DM, if both Creep and Simp don't get kicked from the table, I will quit. Both Innocents 1 and 2 started saying in the chat and asking for the Creep and the Simp to quit since they were uncomfortable playing with them. Creep and Simp didn't quit. The DM was quiet and shocked, to say the least. Then me, both Innocents 1 and 2, and the DM quit the table. We started making other campaigns, but sadly I wasn't very interested, even though I have played RPGs for the best part of 6 years. That never happened to me before. So I know it's kind of cringe to ask this, but please, if you ever play with someone you don't know and you're shy for playing with a girl in your campaign, please just treat us like we're another player and we just want to have fun. Like you. Edit. I've seen many comments saying it was the DM's fault for letting that happen, but I have to say, I don't think that he did it intentionally. I've known him for years and he's quite naive. He DM'd me after saying how sorry he was and that he genuinely didn't expect that they would go so far. I agree that he could have helped quite a bit and stopped the creep before things got disgusting, but I don't blame him. And he did learn his lesson, at least. It's been some 2 years, and he's behaving much more seriously with those things. Anyway, just wanted to add this, and thank you for all the love and the support in the comments. You're all awesome.
Maybe we were a bit harsh jumping on the DM so intensely at first. I get being not confident and naive, and maybe not having the courage to stand up to people in certain situations. However, in these situations, the DM absolutely does need to have at least some confidence to step in and stop these things. They are in control of the roleplay, and it's not completely outside of their control. It's at least very good to hear that the DM has since gotten a lot more confident in dealing with stuff and asserting control over the table when it comes to certain things like this. So that's a very big plus.
If you're gonna DM and you're kind of awkward and maybe not horribly assertive, I get that. And I don't think that being confident and assertive should be a prerequisite for DMing. However, you also have to understand if you want to DM a game, you may have players that pull this kind of stuff, and you have to be willing to stand up and say, nope, we're going to lay down the law here. That's just part of being a DM.
I really do admire OP's confidence in dealing with this. They very assertively set their boundaries after it happened and acted decisively to basically say they weren't going to keep playing anymore. I appreciate Innocent 1 and 2 as well jumping in. And hey, they even said what we touched on earlier. They wanted to be treated like everyone else at the table, no difference.
Yeah, I agree. Good job on OP for standing up and just saying, these guys better be out of here too or else I'm gone. It's the old adage, no D&D is better than bad D&D.
You deserve your boundaries. We completely understand being unconfident, asserting them. Hey, both of us have definitely had issues with this in the past, and it continues to be a problem, but it comes with time. Don't be ashamed if you can't, but it's great if you can. Hands are thrown over D&D game by Reddit user College D&D fan. So I play D&D in an RPG club at my local game store near the college. Our group would get together on Wednesday after our classes were done and play our campaign. This campaign included me, the DM, a pacifist, a normal guy, a normal girl, a freshman girl who is just getting into D&D, and her boyfriend, a 30-something-year-old grognard. Most of us went to said college except grognard and DM.
Okay, so we have a freshman dating a 30-something. I see no issue where the problem player is going to be. I have no idea who it's going to be. Definitely not going to be the 30-something dating an 18-year-old.
Immediate red flags there. I also appreciate naming them grognard. I took the time to look this up. Apparently it means an old soldier, but particularly someone from a Napoleonic era guard in the French army.
Yeah, you would appreciate that, wouldn't you?
I do appreciate that,
Yeah.
yes. Good word use. Now, grognard was a hyper min-max human fighter and was kind of smug about everyone else's character, except his girlfriend's attractive and badass tiefling druid, and would jab us playfully about how weak our characters were. This wasn't as big a problem as you'd think, as we'd roast his character too. But he would also constantly give tips to the DM about how he can improve the campaign, by, for example, giving us more freedom to explore the dungeons and overworld. Grognard was big on exploration and dungeon crawling, and DM was, in all fairness, kind of railroady. This led to quite a few passive-aggressive arguments between DM and Grognard. DM took an insane amount of pride in his world and took it super seriously.
I'm super serial.
To him, Grognard's tips were not appreciated, and Grognard didn't seem to get that. Things came to a head after a major argument about how Grognard felt we were being forced to go to the Nine Hells by a transporter demon that abducted us when he and the group wanted to explore the Shadowfell for magic sword. DM insisted that in his world, the Shadowfell and the Nine Hells were intimately connected. Grognard didn't buy that this wasn't pulled out of the DM's behind, because we didn't roll any saves for it. After the argument escalated and escalated, DM started cussing out Grognard and then immediately killed his character off by having the demon eat him. No death saves, no nothing. Grognard stormed out.
Where to begin? Where to begin? So obviously sounds like we got a problem with the DM, being that he's railroady and way too into his own world, and maybe a little bit too interested in getting players to go a certain direction. Because at the end of the day, like, yes, I get it, you have to move the plot along, but you don't have to do everything in a certain order. You can do things a little out of order if that's what your players want to do, as long as you end up in the right place eventually.
I can appreciate being defensive of your creations, your creative creations in particular. It's your world and you shouldn't be told by players how it works. However, railroading is obviously a bit of a problem. If a player feels like they don't have enough freedom to explore and get out in the world, that's a very valid criticism. What does come into play here is how you express it. It sounds to me like Grognard is not expressing this in a very healthy way. Sounds like they're being a bit confrontational and a bit condescending, and that's kind of where the problem comes in.
Grognard may have a point, but also he's not exactly being very healthy about it, and it sounds like he's already been kind of a jerk anyway up until this point. So in some ways I can see the DM being defensive. Killing a character just because they really ticked you off, that's not how you do it. That's immature as everything.
Next session, Grognard came back. He told the party that while he is still upset at the DM, his girlfriend wants him to stay, and kind of highlighted some of the ways he was being a jerk himself. Grognard rolled up an elf druid. He was still min-max as hell, but he did do better about making his character feel more alive in terms of roleplay and backstory. He laid off giving DM tips for the next few months until DM introduced his DMPC, a demon blood hunter from the Shadowfell who hunted other demons and devils. The DMPC was bad. I am not going to mince words. He was the quintessential combination of Mary Sue, main character syndrome, and the DM's barely disguised fetish. So now our characters were basically side characters in his simulated novel.
Well, props to Grognard for having a little bit of introspection and coming back and trying to improve himself. DM, on the other hand, is just getting worse, and the minute that they said DMPC, I knew there's no DMPC that gets mentioned on these stories that is good. Like, never once have I seen a horror story with a DMPC where it was like, and it was awesome, and everybody lived happily ever after. And this just, oh lord, this particular one just is like an example of why DMPCs rarely ever work, because DMs just get too wrapped up in their characters, and then all of a sudden the story becomes about the DMPC.
And this DMPC was sometimes hostile to the party. This came to a head when the pacifist of the group, Hobbit Barbarian, questioned his increasingly cruel methods in regards to a demon prisoner who claimed to be a defector. The NPC then angrily accused Hobbit of being in league with the forces of hell, but Hobbit wouldn't budge and demanded the DMPC stop torturing the demon or he would release him. The NPC then attacked Hobbit. The party intervened to save him. He made up all kinds of BS excuses as to why we couldn't land a hit on him. My Kenku Warlock literally fell through the ground. No checks, no saves. The NPC ultimately killed Hobbit Barbarian. Grognard rolled his eyes and muttered something, and then DM got insanely upset and said, "What?" and stood up. "You got yet more advice on how I run my campaign?" Grognard just said, "All I said was, this DMPC is something else." DM then said, "You got something to say about my DMPC that I put hours of work for your sake into, do you?" Grognard then said, "Oh, come on. If you're gonna do this, don't go off like he exists for our sake. Your DMPC is there for you and we all know it." DM just said, "You know what? F you. Rock's full. Smash your goddamn elf's brains in, and your soul leaves your body. A demon eats it," as the DM is screaming at him. Grognard then got up and said, "You know what? If you want to railroad us through your power fantasy, why not just write a terrible novel?"
Alright, well, usually I don't say this about people who start out as problem players, but I'll say I'm on Grognard's side about this one. He's got some pretty good points.
I don't think he's the hero of this story. He's more like the anti-hero of this story. He's not really a good guy, but he clearly knows his stuff about D&D. He's not expressing himself well, but the DM sounds pretty antagonistic and provocative.
I mean, I don't really know how better he could be expressing himself, because he didn't say anything out loud. He just sort of rolls his eyes and mumbles something, and the DM's like, "What? You want to go? Let's go, bro." You know, like, there was no de-escalating that kind of situation. He started out at 100, so I guess I can't really fault Grognard too much for that, and he was right. I mean, the DMPC is not for the players. The DMPC 100% was for the DM.
Yeah, I get being provoked. It can be very tough to calm your emotions in that situation. It's just for the sake of the table and everyone else, it is kind of important to really try your best to do. The DM is definitely the antagonist here and being very antagonizing towards Grognard and the rest of the party. DM then punched Grognard in the eye. He fell back, and Grognard then punched back, and before we could blink, they had, well, rolled initiative in the middle of the game store. Grognard's girlfriend tried to intervene, and DM just kind of pushed her aside, which sent Grognard into a barbarian rage until he beat the DM's body to a bloody pulp. As the store owner was calling the cops, and the rest of us were intervening before Grognard made him roll death saves. Okay, that's the last pun. I'm sorry. Do not apologize for your puns. Ever. Round here, we appreciate good puns. The police came and took DM and Grognard down to the station, but ultimately Grognard didn't press charges. He said, "Sometimes men fight." He did get a bit arrogant about winning the fight afterwards, but regardless, we ended up taking a break from D&D until a few months later when I took up the DM mantle. It's still ongoing. In fact, it's a fairly new campaign, but it is so far going well. We never saw the last DM again though, as while Grognard let him off the hook in terms of charges, he did file a restraining order and was obviously banned from the game store. TLDR, a DM and a player argue over the DM's decision. It escalates after he made an unpopular DM PC and physically assaulted a player for criticizing.
Well, that got messy real fast. I never condone violence, and I think that Grognard could have held back because clearly he was capable in a fight. However, I also get that when the adrenaline's going and things just sort of take over, but dude, you're a 30 plus dude with people in their 20s at the oldest, maybe chill out a little bit. Either way, it looks like the trash took itself out.
You're right, this is where the story gets more complicated and is very more unclear in terms of who a good guy is. Grognard was definitely right in some respects. They were right that the DM was railroady, that the DM PC was there for the DM and not for the players. It's great he had the confidence. Grognard is clearly a very confident guy. Maybe a bit too confident and a bit too abrasive in how he voiced his opinions though and how he pushed back against that. This is why I call him an anti-hero rather than a hero. But hey, those kind of shades of grey in actual stories are kind of the best. Those are the most interesting stories, so yeah, Grognard's not a shining example of how to behave, but it makes for a good story, not gonna lie.
And he's not the hero that we needed, but he's the hero that DM deserved. Hey Hugh.
Yes, man.
Did you know there's something about that half-elemental girl?
Oh yeah?
Yes, a certain je ne sais quoi.
And with that, we have definitely not been two kobolds in a trench coat. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and make the necessary sacrifices to Tiamat. We'll see you next time.